I didn't plan on staying long after the speeches. Weddings make me restless, all that smiling, all those promises. But then she caught my eye across the dance floor, and I forgot what I was thinking about. Claire. She was my best friend's sister, older by almost 20 years, still somehow the most magnetic person in the room. Not because of how she looked, though she looked beautiful, but because she seemed tired in a way that drew you in. Like she'd seen too much of life and didn't bother pretending otherwise. I was leaning against the bar, halfway through a drink I didn't even like, when she walked over. Her dress was simple, dark green, thin straps, the kind of thing that didn't need sparkle to be noticed. She didn't smile right away. She just looked at me, like she was trying to remember something. "You've grown," she said finally. Her voice was low, a little rough. "Yeah," I said, half laughing. "That tends to happen in 10 years. Her lips curved slightly. "You used to follow me around with that camera of yours. You said you were documenting real life." "I was," I said. "Still am. Then I should probably stay out of frame." I didn't know what to say to that. She wasn't flirting, not exactly. It felt more like she was testing how much of her I could see, how much she could show before it became dangerous. The music faded into something slower. Couples started drifting to the dance floor. I watched her look away, then back at me, like she was fighting an impulse. "Come on," she said quietly, nodding toward the terrace. "It's too loud in here." Outside, the air was cooler. The garden lights flickered gold over the tables. I followed her to the far end of the patio where no one could really see us. She took off her heels and stood barefoot on the stone, rubbing one ankle. "I hate weddings," she murmured. "Me too," I said. She laughed softly. "You're too young to hate them." "You still believe people mean what they say?" "Not always." Her eyes lifted to me then, steady, curious, almost sad. There was something in that look that made the rest of the world feel too sharp, too bright. For a long moment neither of us spoke. I could hear the music muffled through the walls, the distant sound of people cheering. She reached up and brushed a strand of hair from her face. The gesture was small, ordinary, but it felt intimate, like she was trying not to tremble. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said finally. "Like what?" "Like you think I'm the one who's going to break." I didn't answer. I didn't trust my voice. She turned away, watching the light spill across the grass. I noticed her hands, the way she pressed her fingers against her arm, as if she was holding herself together. "Claire." She looked back. Her eyes were wet but steady. "Not here," she whispered. Then she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, something warm, faintly floral, a little sad. "I need you tonight," she said. It didn't sound like a line. It sounded like something she shouldn't have said, something that had been waiting on her tongue for too long. Before I could answer, the door behind us opened. Voices spilled out, laughter, footsteps, my best friend calling my name. She turned her face away, her hand brushing mine as she passed. "Later," she said under her breath. And just like that, she was gone, back into the noise, the music, the safety of other people, while I stood there, heart racing, wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. Then my phone buzzed. One message. From her. "Room 212. I told myself I wouldn't go. I even made it halfway down the hotel corridor before I stopped, just stood there, staring at the patterned carpet, heart pounding like I'd done something wrong already. My best friend, Daniel, was probably downstairs still drunk on champagne and nostalgia. His sister, Claire, was waiting in room 212. That thought alone made my throat tighten. When we were younger, she was the one who always seemed to understand me before I even spoke. Back then, she was 20-something, married, already tired of the kind of men who never listened. I was just a kid with a camera, filming everything, talking too much, trying to impress her. She used to ruffle my hair and say, "You see too much for someone your age." Maybe that's what started it. Seeing her loneliness before I knew what loneliness meant. Now, years later, she was divorced. I'd heard about it through Daniel, who only said, "She's better off," before changing the subject. I never asked why. I didn't have the right. But tonight, the way she said "I need you," it wasn't some reckless invitation. It sounded like something she regretted the moment it left her mouth. Still, I knocked. The door opened halfway, and she was there, barefoot again, hair pulled up, makeup half smudged. She didn't speak. Just stepped aside and let me in. The room smelled like perfume and rain. Her dress was draped over a chair. A single lamp lit the space, soft and yellow. I said, "You sure about this?" She exhaled through her nose, half laughing, half breaking. No. Her honesty hit harder than any yes. For a minute we just stood there, her by the window, me near the door, the silence stretching until it became something else. She finally turned. "You remind me of who I used to be. Before everything got smaller." "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "When you're young, everything feels possible. Then one day you realize you've been living the same year over and over. You stop asking for things." Her voice trembled on the last word. I took a step closer, then stopped. "You don't have to do this." "I know." She looked up, eyes glassy but dry. "That's what scares me, that I want to." I swallowed hard. Daniel doesn't need to know," she cut in. "He has his life. I have mine." Her tone wasn't sharp, just final, like she'd already argued with herself 100 times before I arrived. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far off. The sound filled the space between us. She reached for the curtain, tugging it closed, then froze halfway. "You should probably leave," she said quietly. I didn't move. Her hand fell to her side. We were close enough now that I could see the small scar by her collarbone, the faint tremor in her fingers. She looked up at me, not as Daniel's sister, not as someone older, just as a woman who'd stopped pretending not to care. Either of us spoke. Then, without meaning to, I reached out, my hand brushing hers, just once, soft enough to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Her fingers tightened around mine. And in that quiet, something in both of us gave way, not to desire, not yet, but to the unbearable relief of being seen. She pulled her hand back first. Not sharply, more like she realized what she was doing and couldn't afford to let it last. "Don't," she whispered. The word hit harder than if she'd yelled. I stepped back, the space between us suddenly colder. I know," she said. "That's why you should go." But neither of us moved. Outside, the rain had started, a steady tapping on the window, the kind that makes everything feel too quiet. Claire turned toward it, crossing her arms, her shoulders drawn in like she was bracing herself for something heavier than weather. "I shouldn't have texted you," she said. "That was stupid." "It wasn't," I said before thinking. She gave a small, broken laugh. "You don't get it. You're still young enough to think wanting something makes it okay." That stung, not because it wasn't true, but because she said it like she was warning me, not scolding. Then the knock. Both of us froze. "Claire?" Daniel's voice muffled through the door. "You in there? Mom's looking for you." Her eyes widened. My pulse kicked up. She mouthed closet and I went without thinking, slipping inside the narrow space beside her luggage. My back pressed against the coats. I could hear her open the door. "Hey," she said, voice perfectly calm. "What's wrong?" "You disappeared. Thought maybe you weren't feeling well." I just needed a break. Too much wine, too much dancing. He chuckled. "Fair. You've always hated crowds." I could hear him step inside. The door clicked shut again. My chest tightened. You sure you're okay? Yeah, she said too fast. Just tired. There was a pause. I imagined Daniel looking around, seeing the half-empty glass on the nightstand, her bare feet on the carpet. All right, he said finally. Get some rest, okay? The door opened again, then closed. Silence. I waited for her to tell me it was safe. She didn't. I stepped out anyway. She was standing by the window again, hand over her mouth, shoulders shaking, not crying exactly, just trying to breathe. That could have gone bad, I said quietly. She nodded. You should go before it does. Claire, I mean it. She turned, eyes red but fierce. If he ever found out. She stopped, swallowing hard. I can't do that to him. Or to you. The thing about rules, once you say them out loud, they already sound like they're meant to be broken. I stepped closer again. Too close. I can't stop thinking about you, I said. Her breath caught. Don't. But she didn't move away this time. The tension between us thickened, the rain, the air, the silence. Then, from the hallway, Daniel's voice again. Hey, you seen Ryan? Her eyes locked on mine, wide and terrified and wanting. She whispered, Go out the balcony. I climbed out into the rain, hard hammering, soaked, shaking, alive, and when I looked back through the glass, she was still standing there, hand pressed against the window, watching me disappear. The next morning, I tried to play normal. I sat beside Daniel at breakfast, pretending my hands weren't still shaking from the night before. He was hungover, laughing about something the best man said in his speech. Every word sounded far away. Across the room, Claire walked in. Her hair was tied back, sunglasses on though we were indoors. No one else noticed the slight tremor in her hand when she poured her coffee. But I did. I couldn't stop noticing everything. When her eyes met mine, it wasn't long, maybe half a second, but it landed like a secret neither of us could bury deep enough. After breakfast, Daniel asked me to help him pack the car. I agreed, mostly to avoid her. But when I came back inside to grab my jacket, she was there, leaning against the doorframe of her room, arms crossed. Can we talk? She asked. Her tone wasn't soft this time. It was steady. Controlled. The kind of tone you use when you've decided something and don't want to look back. I followed her in. She closed the door and kept her distance. I can't do this, she said. Last night, what happened, what almost happened, it can't happen again. I nodded, though I hated how easily I did it. Okay. She looked at me, frustrated. That's it. What do you want me to say, Claire? You tell me to go, I go. You say you need me, I show up. You say it's wrong, and I'm supposed to agree, because I know you're right. Her mouth tightened, but she didn't answer. You think I don't care? I continued. You think this is some crush I'll grow out of? Ryan, she said, warning in her voice. No, I said, stepping closer. You don't get to make me feel something real and then call it a mistake. She blinked fast, like she was fighting tears or fury or both. You have no idea what this would cost me. Then tell me, I said. Tell me what you're so afraid of. She exhaled, shaking her head. You're my brother's best friend. You're 25. And I'm beautiful, I cut in. And alive. And allowed to want something for yourself. Her lips parted, but no sound came. For a moment, the world outside went quiet. No cars, no voices, just the low hum of the air conditioner and our breathing. She took a step toward me, then another, until I could see the small flecks of green in her eyes. I shouldn't want this, she whispered. Then tell me you don't. Her jaw tightened. It doesn't matter what I say. I reached up, almost without thinking, brushing my thumb along her wrist where her pulse fluttered. She didn't pull away. I can hear your heartbeat, I said quietly. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Ryan, please." I didn't know if she was begging me to stop or to keep going. When she opened her eyes again, there was no fear left, only the truth between us, heavy and impossible to ignore. Her hand lifted, fingers trembling, reaching toward my face. Then, a knock at the door. Daniel's voice. "Hey, Claire, you almost ready?" We froze. Her hand still in the air, inches from my skin. She whispered, "Don't say a word." And for the first time, I didn't. The knock faded. Footsteps retreated. Neither of us moved. Then Claire pulled her hand back and exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. "You should go," she said again, but her voice was wrecked, unsteady, trembling. I wanted to argue, but I saw something shift in her eyes. Not hesitation, fear. "What's wrong?" I asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "He knows." My stomach dropped. "Daniel?" She nodded once. "I don't know how much he saw. Last night, when you went out the balcony, I think he came back." My window was open. For a second, neither of us spoke. The sound of the rain outside filled the silence again, same rhythm as the night before, but heavier now. She sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on her knees, face in her hands. "He looked at me this morning. Not like my brother. Like someone trying to solve a puzzle they wish they hadn't started." My mouth went dry. What if he heard everything? "Then it's already over," she said. I stepped closer. "No. We can explain." "Explain what, Ryan?" Her voice cracked. "That I called you to my room at midnight? That I said I needed you?" I didn't have an answer. Her hands were shaking now. "He's all I've got left of family. I already lost my marriage, my parents barely speak to me. If he turns his back too." She stopped, swallowed hard. "I won't let that happen," I said quietly. She looked up then, eyes sharp. "Don't make promises you can't keep." Just then, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. One message. From Daniel. "We need to talk. Now." Her face went pale. She opened it. Another message followed. "And don't lie to me." The air seemed to drain out of the room. "Maybe he's just guessing," I said, though even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. She stood, restless, pacing. "He's not the type to guess. He's the type to watch." The thought hit me. The best man last night had borrowed my camera to take pictures at the reception. I'd left the SD card in my bag, in Daniel's room. "Oh God," I said. "The photos." She froze. "What photos?" "There might have been a picture of us on the terrace." Her eyes closed, slow and pained. "Ryan." I grabbed my jacket, already heading for the door. "I'll get the card before he does." She reached out, catching my arm. "No, if he sees you, I'll handle it," I said. "I won't let him destroy this before we even know what this is." She stared at me for a long moment, eyes wet. Then she whispered, "You don't understand. If he confronts you, he won't forgive me." I hesitated, then leaned closer. "Then let him blame me." Her expression broke, a mix of horror and something dangerously close to love. Before she could answer, the door to the hallway opened without a knock. Daniel stood there. His eyes moved from her to me, slow, deliberate, burning. And he said quietly, "Don't bother explaining." Daniel's voice didn't rise. That somehow made it worse. He stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his jacket, his face unreadable except for the tight line of his jaw. Behind him, the hallway light cut through the dim room, two shadows caught in its glare. Claire's breath hitched. "Daniel, don't," he said. "Just don't." I stepped forward. "It's not what you think." He turned to me. "You sure about that, Ryan? Because what I think is that my best friend spent the night sneaking around with my sister." Silence. There was no way to make that sound innocent. Claire spoke quietly. Nothing happened. Daniel let out a dry laugh. Right. Because that makes it fine. He looked at her, and I could see the hurt in his eyes, not rage, but something sharper. Betrayal mixed with confusion. You're old enough to know better. She flinched at that. Don't talk to me like I'm your responsibility. Someone has to, he shot back. You've been off since the divorce, and now you're dragging him into it? Her voice cracked. I didn't drag anyone. I stepped between them before he could say anything else. Stop talking like she's not here. This wasn't a mistake I made alone. He stared at me, jaw tight. You're supposed to be my friend. I still am, I said. But I'm also someone who… I hesitated, my chest tight. Who sees her. Who listens. That stopped him for a second. The rain outside grew louder, hitting the balcony glass in steady bursts. Claire moved to the window, her back to us. You want the truth? She said quietly. I'm tired of being careful. Of watching my life shrink smaller every year while everyone tells me what I should do. Last night wasn't a mistake. It was the first time in years I actually felt alive. Daniel looked like he'd been hit. So what, you're in love now? She turned, eyes shining. Maybe not. But maybe I could be. Her words hung in the air, heavy, defiant, raw. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Daniel looked at me, and his expression softened, just barely. You're leaving today, he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. Yeah. I was planning to. He turned to Claire. And you, do what you want. But don't ask me to pretend it's fine. He walked out before either of us could respond. The door shut hard behind him. The silence afterward was unbearable. Claire sank onto the bed, head in her hands. I ruined it. I sat beside her. No, I said. You just stopped hiding. She looked up at me, eyes tired but clear. And what now? I smiled, small, uncertain. We start with that. What now? For a moment neither of us moved. The rain softened outside, fading into a steady whisper. Then she reached for my hand, not in desperation this time, but in quiet understanding. Maybe it wouldn't last. Maybe it would. But for once neither of us was pretending. A week passed before I heard from either of them. Daniel didn't answer my texts. I didn't push it. Some things need silence before they can heal, and I had too much noise in my own head to force a conversation he wasn't ready for. Claire and I hadn't talked either. The night everything blew up, I left the hotel before sunrise. She was still asleep when I closed the door. Or maybe she wasn't. Maybe she just stayed still to make it easier. For days I kept replaying it, every pause, every glance, every word we hadn't said out loud. Guilt tried to rewrite the story, but longing refused to let it. Then, one evening, as the sun sank low through my apartment window, my phone buzzed. A message. Her name. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time before replying. Always. We met at a small cafe halfway between her place and mine. No wedding dresses, no rain, no walls closing in, just two people who had finally stopped hiding. She was already there when I arrived, hair tied back, coffee half finished. When she saw me, she smiled, not the nervous kind, not the guilty kind. Just tired, real, and warm. Daniel knows I didn't mean to hurt him, she said softly. We talked. My chest loosened. And? He's angry, but he'll come around. He said, he just doesn't want to lose either of us. I let out a shaky laugh. He won't. For a moment, we both looked down, at the table, at our hands, at the line we'd crossed and somehow survived. I kept thinking it was wrong, she said. The age, the timing, everything. But wrong things don't make you breathe again. I reached across the table, my fingers brushing hers. Then maybe it wasn't wrong. Maybe it was just honest. She looked up, eyes soft but steady. I don't know where this goes, Ryan. I don't even know if I'm ready for anything serious again. I'm not asking for forever, I said. Just for something real. The silence between us was gentler this time, like we'd earned it. Outside, people walked by with their lives, their routines, their ordinary stories. Ours didn't look like theirs, messy, complicated, maybe even unfair, but it was ours. She smiled faintly. You always were too good at seeing people. And you, I said, were the first person who ever looked back. The rest of the world faded for a minute. Just the sound of cups clinking, low music, her thumb tracing lazy circles over my wrist. We didn't need promises. Just presence. When we left, she lingered by her car, eyes glinting in the late light. You're coming by tomorrow? If you'll have me. Her smile deepened. I will. She got in, drove off slow, taillights glowing red against the twilight. I stood there, soaked in the strange calm that follows chaos, not perfect, not certain, but true. Maybe that's all love ever is. Not the vow, not the plan, just the courage to keep showing up. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Something tender, something forbidden, or something that breaks the rules all over again?